Military coup dtat successful National Committee of Reconciliation and Development. The 2021 Guinean coup dtat is a government takeover made by the armed forces of Guinea on 5 September 2021. It has resulted in the capture of the country's president, Alpha Conde, after gunfire in the capital, Conakry. The Special Forces commander Mamadi Doumbouya released a broadcast on state television announcing the dissolution of the constitution and government. After several decades of authoritarian rule in Guinea, Conde was the country's first democratically elected leader. During his time in office, Guinea used its rich natural resources to improve the economy, but the bulk of the country's population has not felt its effects. In 2020, Conde changed the constitution by referendum to allow himself to secure a third term, but with controversy. During his rule, Conde cracked down on protests as well as opposition candidates, some of whom died in prison, while the government struggled to contain price increases in basic commodities. In August 2021, in an attempt to balance the budget, Guinea announced tax hikes while slashing costs on the police and the military, but increased funding for the office of the President and National Assembly. The coup began in the morning of 5 September, when the Republic of Guinea armed forces surrounded Sékhaoutoura Presidential Palace and cordoned off the wider government district. After a shootout with pro-government forces, the mutineers, who appear to be led by Col. Mamadi Doumbouya of the country's special forces, took President Conde hostage, announced dissolution of the government and its institutions, annulled the constitution, and sealed off the borders. Other countries have called for the coup to stop and for constitutional order to return. From the country's independence from France in 1958 until 2010, Guinea was ruled by autocratic regimes including decades of corrupt rule. In 2008, a military coup was instigated shortly after the death of Lansana Conté. The military stepped down in 2010. Alpha Conde was the first president to be peacefully and democratically elected to the office of President of Guinea in 2010. He was re-elected in 2015. The country had a two-term presidential limit, but the 2020 constitutional referendum included a provision extending the length of terms and allowed Conde to reset his term limit and seek 2 more terms. The move proved controversial and sparked massive manifestations, which were brutally repressed, causing more than 30 deaths between 2018 and 2022. After the constitutional amendment was approved, Conde won the 2020 presidential election and thus a third term in office. However, this was again followed by protests against the president, with opposition candidates accusing Conde of ballot stuffing. Protests continued throughout the year, and were harshly repressed by security forces, claiming at least 12 civilian lives, including 2 children in Conakry. France distanced itself from Conde following the 2020 election, leaving China, Egypt, Russia and Turkey as those of the few powerful countries which continued to back the president. This happened as fellow West African and Central African countries have experienced democratic backsliding. Chad went through its own military takeover in April 2021. Mali had 2 such overthrows in a year, while Ivory Coast elected a president for a third term amid considerable controversy and allegations of fraud. During Conde's regime, some improvements have been made to the economy. The country has built its wealth upon its extensive resources, particularly bauxite, but also the extraction of diamonds as well as iron and gold ores. However, government mismanagement has resulted in a failure to bring financial benefits for most citizens, and the communities around the mines have not been adequately compensated for land, water and health losses connected with the mineral extraction. Starting from the presidential election, opposition politicians, who were contesting the legitimacy of Conde's mandate, were repressed. For example, Mamadi Conde was arrested on January 2021, while Roger Bamba, the leader of Union of Democratic Forces of Guinea, an opposition party, and Mamadou Ouari Barry both died in prison. Prisons in the country, according to the Human Rights Watch, have very poor conditions. In addition, prices of grain, flour and sugar rose sharply, As a result, the government made an attempt in January 2021 to set the bread price at a higher level, but quickly backpedaled amid outcry that the decree caused. However, this led to bread shortages in Nericor because bakers refused to produce bread at regulated prices of 2,500 francs a loaf. After 10 days of standoff between bakers and the prefecture government, the authorities granted permission to sell the bread at 4,000 francs. Similar increases were also reported elsewhere in the country. Public discontent ensued as a result. The economy in 2021 came